Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for Week 7 of Survivor 50. And my name is Mike Bloom. After the false alarm, last week the jury has officially begun. The merge has officially begun, though only half the people competed in the immunity challenge. But regardless, no other shenanigans here, except for the shenanigans the castaways were providing. And there was a fair amount here. We had arguments at the hammock. We had Coach assuming the position that he has several times in the past, and we've had haikus aplenty. I'll use one to introduce the person sitting to my right here, Liana Boraas, co-host there, was here. How are you doing?
I mean, honestly, pretty much just as good as Coach's, if not better, because I think that was actually a haiku. I'm doing fabulous. Look, this was, I think, a really fun episode. Yes, sure, only half the people got to compete for immunity, but there was still, like, who cares? Whatever. We got to see everybody all together. Sad to lose D, but really excited to see all the shenanigans that happened in this episode, and I'm sure the more that we'll get as the season continues.
Well, I am thrilled to be welcoming in this fine gentleman to break this all down because, look, some could say that the post-merge of Survivor is like the playoffs, where you finally made it to the echelon and all that's ahead of you is the championship. And this guy knows all about the playoffs, considering he's about to dive into the NBA playoffs on his MO, the No Dunks podcast. But you may know him from the No Buffs podcast as well. We are welcoming in the one, the only J.E. Skeets.
Thanks for having me. I am now set. If I ever make it onto Survivor, I will be using that exactly to tickle the balls of one Jeff Probst with the metaphors of the playoffs and the merge and all that. He'd love that. He'd eat that up.
I would love it.
I mean, I do think that people should check at Tribal Council people making metaphors. If Jeff's like shifting uncomfortably in his seat, I do think he feels the metaphoric ball tickling. And, you know, they're all getting a little bit of pleasure out of it in that form. They're sort of appeasing Jeff. Jeff himself is getting rather tantalized in the moment. And so it's a win-win all around, except for the person who's voted out.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I've said this before. At least I think I tweeted it once. Mike, you are an incredible podcast host. And I can say that as someone who has hosted like 5,000 NBA podcasts. I'm a Survivor historian fan as well as this one. So I'm really excited to be here before I have to focus on the NBA world for the playoffs. Yeah.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much, Skeets, for coming on. I actually want to focus on you more before we go into Survivor 50 here. What is your Survivor origin story? When did you get into the show? Were you watching religiously ever since? Did you bow out for a period of time?
Yeah, I definitely bowed out for a little bit. I started with season 1. I was actually living in Australia at the time. And when it launched season 1, and I remember I was in a hostel and it was sort of, we all had to decide on what we were going to watch over there communally. And we decided to give that a go, and everybody was in, and I was hooked like most people. And I'm sure a lot of listeners, and then stuck with it. And then I don't know when I sort of dropped off, but I did. And then probably, let's call it 15 years ago or so, I was going to get into running, and I was going to do a lot of treadmill work. And I was like, oh, I could watch shows on the treadmill. What am I going to watch? And I decided, I should just catch up on all these seasons of Survivor I missed. And then I was back being hooked again. So I did a lot of miles watching, whatever, season 21, 22, 23, whatever it was. And
some of those seasons you want to run away from. You're like, no!
Some of them, yeah.
One world, I need to get away.
No, it was just amazing how quick, I guess 40 minutes or so could go back in the day on the treadmill. So I just love it. And then we started doing the No Buffs podcast around Survivor 40, sort of COVID times, and sort of like, no NBA going on, and decided to do a little bit of coverage on Survivor, even though it's well covered with your podcast and many others. But we have a blast talking about it. So we've been doing it for 10 seasons, I guess now.
Liana, do you think Survivor is one of the best reality shows to watch on a treadmill? Do you think it actively encourages running?
Actually, I was going to ask if you can track your mile time with each season. Like, do you run faster when it's a bad season? I feel like I would just be like, oh my God, this is a slog as both running and watching the episodes.
I wish I had tracked all of that. That would have been brilliant.
That's a really, I think, get in the lab, folks. Christian, if you're listening, let's try to get some biometrics going there. Because I would imagine, maybe it's something where like if you're paying attention to how riveting something is, like maybe you're going at a higher pace if you're feeling anxious about something. I mean, I would say on paper, if you had to choose a CBS reality show to keep a pace at, I feel like The Amazing Race is like the chalk pick, right? I mean,
Yes, true. But I do remember there was a certain speed that I couldn't hit because like then you're bouncing too much and like then it's like, you know, you're sort of disoriented or maybe you've got the captions up. So I had to get into just a groove pace. You know, I wasn't sprinting. So I feel like it was pretty consistent with the seasons I caught up on. And then I was right back into it.
Well, Skeets, let's talk about the pace that this season is going so far. Obviously, you know, maybe people thought they hit a little bit of a bump last week with the Blood Moon twist, but what have your thoughts been? We're pretty much halfway past the, you know, midpoint of season 50 right now. What have your opinions been on this incredibly anticipated season of the show?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. I almost felt guilty having the NBA show and then, like I said, starting No Buffs in our Survivor coverage when we did over the last couple of years of Survivor, these seasons, to maybe new people or people that have come in. They're like, what? This show? And it's like, I'm like, no, there are like better seasons. Trust me. So to now have Survivor 50, and I feel like it is delivering for the most part. It's been fun to see some of these newer fans like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, returning players is fun. These big characters, you know, the twists, I'm sure we'll debate and stuff like that, but at least there's some action and a lot of things to talk about. So I've loved it. The Blood Moon, didn't love 2 Canadians going home in the Blood Moon massacre, but back to a little bit more normal here this last one. And I think like we're ramping up to some like fireworks here over the last half of the season.
I think it's been so refreshing to have genuine conflict, like actual, real, genuine conflict. And I know you want to be, oh, good game, guys. LOL, JK, like good game. Like you just want to hug it out at the end. Yeah. But I'm like, oh, to see people really dislike each other is also just such a blessing.
That's so true. Nonstop in all of our No Buffs coverage, we're always talking about like, we want villains. We want some headbutting. We want people going at each other. And like, you know, you want everyone at the end to be like, it's just a game. And like, then you leave it there and it's not personal, maybe offline and stuff like that. But a couple seasons, hasn't been a lot of this. So even to have Dee and Jonathan, you know, going at it with Coach pouting in the hammock, like that was fun. It was riveting television.
Yeah, we got headbutting and we got butt heads from a certain perspective. If you ask about Tiffany's opinion about some of these people. Yeah, I mean, I also think it comes a bit corollary to the returning player aspect in a couple different ways. A, these people are, as I'm sure we'll get into with someone like Coach, incredibly comfortable with like being themselves in front of the camera. And so I think even if the optimal gameplay is to like bite your tongue, don't let them see how mad you are. Sometimes from some people's perspectives, they're just like, nah, do I really need to do the safe option here? I don't give a shit. Let me just yell at this person. Dee certainly felt that way. She has expressed that, well, you know, maybe Jonathan did get a rise out of her to a certain perspective. Like part of the reason why she had this blow up with him is because she was like, I've got nothing to lose. I pretty much think I'm gone no matter what. So like, sure, why don't I just make a lot of fireworks on the way out? And the other thing as well is that there are pre-existing relationships. Obviously, the boot of Charlie might be one of the most impactful ones that we will see this entire season, considering how it is already keeps bearing fruit down the line. Obviously, that's a large reason why Jonathan is going to lead the charge against Dee in this episode. And so there is also a little bit of, I don't think Jonathan and Dee were necessarily friends before this game, but like Coach and Dee certainly had some friendliness to them. And so there is a level of like almost personal hurt as well.
Sure.
You know, obviously we'll get into this with Emily, who ends up being one of the reasons Dee goes home, albeit second-handedly, when she tells this information to the leaky faucet and essentially is surprised when there's a flooded bathroom next to her. And she sort of ends up getting done in by the person that she knew the most and arguably trusted the most going into the season. So there's a lot of emotions, I think, inherently mixed into this, which, as you both mentioned, is a little surprising on paper, given, hey, this is some people's 5th or 6th times playing the game. They clearly know that it's all just left out on the field. But I think getting to come back can sometimes make things even messier, given how much you know this experience and the impact of others can make an impact on yourself.
Yeah, one trend we've seen over the last couple episodes too that I like is these people having played before, when they make a mistake, they're able to recognize it right then and there. Coaches
Aubry.
even done it, for crying out loud. Oh, I put my foot in my mouth, and D has done it and said it here in a confessional, and a couple others. And it's like, there's something fun about that. They're so locked in, they're so good at this game because they've done it a couple times. They're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. How can now I rebound? It's fun to see that like right then and there play out. In addition to getting able to root for some of these people that are like legends in the game. Like that's a part of it too. Like there's a lot of people going, oh, it'd be cool if Cirie could pull this off. Or, wow, Ozzy, what a crazy transformation. He's actually approaching this game a little differently. So that returning factor, just like if you are a Survivor fan, like this is just like, it's like an all-star game. To compare it to the NBA. There you go, Jeff. How about that, Jeff? This is like an all-star game.
And much like the new era, it feels like the format of the all-star game is changing every year.
Totally, yes. I was thinking that before I jumped on. I'm like, I mean, I've podcasted about the NBA for 20 years now. I've been a Survivor fan, watched every season, of course. And like the comparisons is like, people think the NBA has changed, some for the better, some not, right? Like they're always coming up with new twists, the play-in tournament, what we're doing for the all-star game, the NBA in-season tournament, all this stuff. And you got people saying, just leave it the way it was. That was better, But then other people saying, no, you got to get more people involved. There is a lot of comparisons to like the sport of basketball and the NBA, what they've sort of changed and tried and tweak to what Survivor and Jeff has done.
Somewhere in California, Jeff Probst is just giggling at how much his balls have been tickled over the past 30 seconds.
I'm just trying to get on the show, I gotta drop a million of these.
We're happy to be your backdoor application.
Yeah, good.
Oh man. Well, I mean, didn't Joe apologize for his metaphor? I'm like, Joe.
Well, yes, because everyone simultaneously like shit on it and also utilized it.
Yeah.
Like perverted it past what he was like, listen, in the firehouse, there's a hierarchy. And Cirie's like, we're a long way from there, buddy. This is not the Tyler Perry show that you'll be a part of down the line. And everyone's like, yes, much like Joe's firehouse, I also believe that there is a hierarchy. And Joe's like, leave me out of this, please.
Yeah.
I was just trying. I didn't have any confessionals this episode. I'm just trying to contribute here. Ignore me.
He was like, oh man, what have I done? That was actually one of the funniest things I thought Joe has said in his 2 seasons of Survivor. I was like, oh, that was actually funny when he's like, yeah, I shouldn't. Last time I bring up a firehouse metaphor.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about someone who lit at least the confessional game on fire in this episode, and not talking about Joe. We got to talk about Coach here, because Coach was back in prime form. As you mentioned, Skeets, he pretty much lampshades it of like, you all wanted to see me back, and here I am. It's like, yeah, that's great, but good luck to you, buddy. Because as we saw, part of the Coach package that we have loved through the first 3 iterations of him is the fact that not everyone loves the first 3 iterations of him. And in particular, he had everyone wrapped up in a tizzy. He called Christian squirrely. Rizo is now part of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, apparently. I mean, Skeets, I got to get your thoughts on Coach here, both in the previous 6 episodes and what we have here, which you talk about the maturation of Ozzy, almost the reversion for Coach, which again, he seems to celebrate almost in this moment.
Yeah, it's sort of he's the old rock band where it's like for the first couple episodes he's like, I'm gonna try some new stuff, and everyone's like, play the hits, man. And he's like, all right, I'll play the hits. And this is the old Coach, which I love. Now,
do we have any dragons in the audience?
Yeah, exactly. Ben, get up here, get on the guitar. I love it. He's just like one of the most fascinating people in reality television history. He really is. And I was getting into it with Nora, who does the show with me, my wife, and she's not a Coach fan, where JD, who I also do the show with, is a Coach fan. And, I go back and forth. Can't take my eyes off him. I can't stop going like, what are you doing? It's one thing with the Dragon Slayers and the nicknames and the alliances and the Tai Chi and all of that stuff. Like that's whatever. That's Coach. But when he was doing the scolding on everyone of like, okay, you're doing this and then you're doing this, and hey, if you don't do this, then you're not winning this game. It's like, read the room, man. Like, it's one thing to do it with newbies, whole other thing to do with returning players. You shouldn't be doing it with either. I want to make that clear, but like, definitely not with a bunch of legends and returning players. But he's just like, he seems clueless to it. So look, long-winded way to say, I'm loving now that Coach is back to being Coach. He's never going to win like this. But could he be there at the end? I mean, it'd almost be silly not to take him to the end. I think. If you're these
I don't
other
know. I
players.
think it's too annoying. I think at a certain point, these people are like, this guy is too chaotic too. Because also, like, if he is trying to exert dominant will over this game of not only, as you mentioned, like, not I wouldn't play this way, but the winner shouldn't play this way. It's like, I don't know if I could. It's almost like the argument they had both about and with, from a certain perspective, Joe, all the way back in episode 2, right? Like, if you are a rock in the middle of this game, do you really want to, navigate the train tracks around the rock, or do you just want to take a stick of dynamite and blow it up and be able to do whatever you want with the train tracks?
I mean, each season of Survivor kind of has its own social norms and mores that they play by. And so when you have somebody who just sticks out so much, because even Jonathan, for all his honor and integrity, right, still is like, I'm going to rage bait D and let's see how it goes. So even he's still a little messy. And
Cry harder, D.
Yeah, and like trying to be strategic and all of that. Whereas Coach is just such an unmovable force when he's basically general coach walking around telling everybody exactly how they have to vote in the situation. Like, people aren't going to want to play with that. So I do understand that frustration of just, can we just remove this so we can actually like play and have a good time?
Yeah, I guess the counter is no one is ever going to vote for him. So like, if you're close enough with him and if you can put up with enough haikus to last all the way to the end, like he just does himself in, because the biggest thing is he's a hypocrite. I think it's the number one thing that people 100%. Like, no matter what he would say at the end at Final Tribal Council, it's like, come on, man, but you say one thing, you do the opposite. So it's like, nobody respects that part of Coach's game, I think.
Yeah.
So.
I will say, as much as we are talking about him lovingly going out and repeating the classics, the haikus is a new one.
Yeah.
And I love this, not only because, as you mentioned, Liana, so we heard 3 throughout this. The first was technically incorrect. I believe the syllable pattern was, I think I calculated like 6-8-5 instead of 5-7-5. The other ones were done a little bit more within the confines of what we typically think of with a haiku. But I think my favorite part of it was how proud of them he was. Like when he's sitting on the hammock by himself, and when you have Emily like sitting there, I think with Jonathan and Rick being like, what's he doing? Is he making haikus right now? And he's just sitting there on the hammock, his apparent new throne, counting off the syllables and like cackling to himself and being like, Mom, Dad, look what I just did. Put my haiku up on the fridge. It's like, that's great, buddy. Good job, Coach. Yeah. It's just so incredible. I do actually have a clip that I wanted to share that I would love to get both of your comments on. I posted this on social media, but I'm still obsessed with it all these days later. So as I mentioned, Coach was doing a lot here. And there's one particular like B-roll interstitial of Coach in this episode that I have not stopped thinking about to this day. Here is just a little blast from the past as to one, again, like 10-second moment we saw from this 90-minute episode that I cannot stop thinking about.
But having the old Dragon Slayer rear his head again, I feel brilliant. Hey! Opa!
So it's just a sequence of Coach dancing in the middle of camp, and you think, okay, this is just another haiku, literally dancing with myself. He's just having his enjoying, getting his kicks in out there. And then it cuts to Aubry, who makes this entire clip for me. Like, I think she's into it, or she's trying to feign interest, where she's bopping along and trying to mirror what he's doing. I have so many questions about this. Honestly, Coach's gameplay has a lot of questions. This might be the top of my list right now.
And then the Opa to end it is
Well, it's with Coach. Okay, so obviously you got the I'm here to play the game, new, a little bit of new man, reflection, blah blah blah, whatever. But it's like at the end of the day, he's still just such a weird, goofy dude. And I think maybe it's just because less food, you get worn down out on Survivor, and then that's when your real personality emerges. And so for Coach, apparently it's just him dancing around, going Opa with the haikus. That's just what his natural state of being is. That's what we've exposed.
I agree with that. He's already coming in day one, a kooky guy, like a unique guy. But then, 7, 8, whatever, I mean, even further in of little sleep and lack of food, I think Coach starts to go really up the deep end. I do. And I start to think like, he thinks this is a real war. He's always saying war, war, war. It's like he goes out those places in his head where it starts to become a reality to him.
Oh, he's gone full Kurtz right now. He's gone into the heart of darkness, and he's become so enraptured in it. But what I'm also really intrigued by is, was this a self-promoted dance? Was it like, oh, I remember when I was in Mykonos and I got invited to this Greek wedding off the street, and someone's like, Coach, can you show us how to dance? Or I wonder if at this point people are so over him that we are past those days, right? Like Camilla would have absolutely done that. We see in the first episode, people are like, Coach, tell us a story. Coach, show us your grody toe ring. I think now perhaps the bloom has fallen off the rose, and Coach is like, hey, don't you guys want to see me do my dance? And Aubrey's like, I do. And everyone else says, no way, Jose.
Ooh, yeah, it's like, it does feel like there's probably one person, whether it was Aubry here or it's sometimes somebody else, like there's just one person that like placates him and goes, okay, yeah, what was the wedding like? And then, that's it. And he's off and running. And he's like, he loves the camera, man. Let's be honest. This guy, he sees these cameras around. He sees these boom operators, which I can't believe they didn't show us when they were talking about boom operators. Right? That was crazy.
Yes. I was like, oh, where's the shot? Where's the quick 1 second shot to the boom operators?
I literally couldn't believe it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But yeah, Coach he loves it. He loves the crowd. He loves the show that he can put on. So
he really does. I think that's such one of the things I was going to bring up in our conversation was basically not just Coach, but the players' reaction to Coach. And I think such a great example of this is the Jonathan Emily sitting there being like, is he talking to himself? Just like let him talk to himself. And then the fact, Mike, that you showed I didn't remember that at all. And just seeing how other players are almost like this guy, or do you kind of placate him? Do you engage with him? Like, what do you do with a player like Coach? Especially when not only, you're all dealing with sleep deprivation and lack of food. It just must be almost like a hallucination to watch this man sort of prance around camp, spouting haikus and pretending like he's at a Greek wedding.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, Liana, because let's maybe talk about the other side of the spectrum of Coach reactions. So this is yet another blink and you miss it Coach moment that occurs when Rizo and Ozzy are back from their stay in the boom boom room that was Exile Island. This is Coach just talking to Joe, but the camera work in this is absolutely impeccable.
So, like, if you read all that Arthurian legend, the strongest on the round table was Galahad. Okay? He was undefeated.
This, by the way, the real MVP of Survivor 50 has been this hammock.
Yes.
It keeps delivering. Like, we had the Christian where he's peering through it. Every time Cirie and Rizo are talking, they're on the, like, we've got a lot of good hammock moments. And this is what a reaction from Joe. It's like Joe, it looks like he like just took his buff over his eyes. Like, are you talking to me? Like, what a way to wake me up.
Yeah, it looks like he is having a dissociative episode right now. He's just, maybe his mind's thinking like, what would happen in the firehouse if this was occurring? We have a hierarchy there. We have a structure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the other thing too that's so interesting. I don't know if Joe falls in this camp, but certainly Rizo is a good example of this, where it's somebody who's watched Coach. First of all the Survivor legends, but Coach on television and has like this vision of him, right? Like I have this vision of who Coach is and what Coach is like. But goddamn, like that's an edited down version. Imagine experiencing that in real life. That's the reaction. Like Joe's face, that's the reaction to Coach in real life when it's not this pared down, edited little snippet that's really fun. If you're constantly having to deal with him talking about the round table, oh my goodness gracious. I'm in the ocean. I don't have time to deal with
You're
him.
just running straight for the water.
Let me.
Actually, these scenes might actually be the perfect treadmill stuff to watch, considering you're just like, get me away from Coach as much as you can.
I think I'm stopping running. I'm just like, I'm done for the day. Yeah.
Well,
but it is a great point, Liana. Like, is it like when we see Coach, and like I said, I love it. I want to make this clear. I love every single second of this. But if you are out there on the island and he is just doing this nonstop, like, literally blow my brains out. Yeah. Like, and then you can't say shut up, man. Like, you got to be like, you got to literally dance around it if you're Aubry. That would do your head in. That really would. And that goes to what you were saying, Mike. Like, are they just going to be like, this is exhausting and annoying, and let's just vote him out so we can sort of play how we maybe want to play? Or will there be enough people to be like, okay, it's annoying, we hate the haikus, but keep them around because that helps our chances to win.
Well, one of those people who might fall into the latter camp is Rizo. And we need to talk about Rizo at this point, because there are these people who will come back to Survivor, and even if they don't make it as far as their first time out, will arguably impress even more, given the caliber of people around them, given what they've been able to pull off. I do feel like after 49, people were like, oh, he's a fun character, he did some interesting things, or maybe did not do, flashy things with the idol, or did flashy things by not playing the idol. But, like, did he need to be on season 50? I am so happy Rizo is on season 50, because this guy, as you mentioned, Skeets, his first season of Survivor was Token Chains. Coach is part of his foundational origin story for falling in love with the show that eventually got him on 2 seasons in a row. And he got to stand in front of that man and say, we slay dragons at Tribal Council. We do not slay dragons at camp. Skeets, I gotta get your thoughts on all things the man, the myth, the legend, RIZGOD, Riz God, baby. Oh, no, akin to, a nickname you might find among one of the many NBA players you discuss.
Yeah. I think you said it well. I think some of us were like, really? He's coming back for 50? Like, there's so many other legends that you would say, give the spot to him or her, but he's delivered. He has been amazing. Obviously, the alliance that he has going with Cirie and Ozzy. Now he's like placating Coach here. And is he in the 4 Horsemen or is he not? Like, he's in a great spot. Just the fact that Cirie alone is telling him things, and in confidence, they do seem to be working together. That's all I need to see. Like, oh yeah, he can play. Like, she trusts him. She believes in him or whatever. Sees something. Now, again, like, she maybe wants to be there with him because she could beat him. But to get there, she sees a path along with him. He has knocked it out of the park. And he's like, he gets to be this fun extension of us sometimes, because he's like, oh my God, I'm out here with Coach. Like, this is crazy. Now I got to like take Grandpa for a walk and walk him off the ledge. And like, so he gets to like give us those in confessionals. Like, he's freaking out, but he's also doing a great job of playing with these people. It's like trying, I guess, like, for another weird metaphor would be like when we started working at NBA TV, it's like, whoa, there's Charles Barkley. Whoa, there's Shaquille O'Neal. Like, whoa, there's Isaiah Thomas. Like, I'm a basketball fan, so I'm like sort of freaking out inside, but I'm like, no, they are a colleague. Play it cool. Like, they will like me, but we got to slow play it. So, yeah, that's the similarities there. And Rizo's doing a great job, I think. And he's been amazing so far.
It's been so interesting to watch Rizo's relationship with the icon old schoolers, specifically, right? Because we saw his relationship with Colby highlighted. Yep. We see his I know. Oh, Gramps. We see his relationship.
We didn't get to see his reaction to when he came back and Colby wasn't there.
I know. Colby, you see his relationship with Coach. We see his relationship with Cirie, by extension Ozzy, which, by the way, is it Cirie's
Okay, wait, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Cirie's Wizard of Oz. It feels like we're going full Tyler Perry here in terms of like sponsored or like produced by Cirie. That Cirie is a mega producer. Yeah. Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. Though in this case, she is directly involved. I love the alliance. The name, I think, needs a little bit of time to bake.
This is the worst alliance name ever, guys. We can say it the way it is. This is like, you can't.
Why the possessive? Why are we saying Cirie's Wizard of Oz? You are propping her up on a pedestal by being like, no, Cirie, this is your alliance. You own us.
You can't put your own names in the alliance name. See, this is where Coach has it figured out. I got to give him that, right? This is where he, I guess, dominates Cirie in the game of Survivor, coming up with alliance nicknames. They need to. JD was throwing around on No Buffs. It was off the Odd Couple, so he was going the Odd Thruple.
I like that.
I like that one.
Didn't mind. Nora wanted more of something along the poly relationship that they joked about, so the power poly or something. I think they're both better than the Cirie's Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those situations where maybe Rizo came up with it and Cirie's like he's excited about it. So
Yeah.
Cirie is just sort of, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that'll make a great Photoshop. Yeah.
Sure, we can go for it. Because yeah, it was certainly. I mean, first of all, it's not even that easy to say, which
No.
it doesn't roll off the tongue, and it's a bit of a mess. So just yeah, all around,
Yeah.
not my favorite.
Yeah, I think that I like those suggestions that you threw out there, Skeets, by proxy of your co-host. I mean, you could go ORC if you're going with the first names of these three. I guess the other thing too is that, as you mentioned, putting your name in the alliance name is a choice.
That's bad.
And also, listen, these are
Yeah.
adept players. They're not going to get caught overheard being like, yeah, I've got to stick loyal to Cirie's Wizard of Oz. But if they happen to do so, you have named every person in that alliance.
Yeah. That's a tell right there for sure.
Ozzy can't be like, no, it's a different Ozzy.
No,
Could
I'm
not be
Oscar.
me.
Not
Yeah,
me.
I'm Oscar.
Yeah, I'm Oscar this season.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if we go off the orc thing, Lord of the Rings, is there something there with that? I don't know. I think all of these ideas are better than Cirie's Wizard of Oz. So it's a low bar to clear.
Well, let's get into some more stuff that happened in this episode. And let's go back to one of our first topics we discussed in the conflict that occurred here. And really the downward spiral of D. Though I guess the question is it a downward spiral? She obviously had power in the Charlie vote. She had power in the Colby vote. But she seems to think that she was pretty much DOA, for lack of a better term, the second she lost immunity. What do you think, Skeets? Do you think there was any room for D to navigate here, or was she cornered no matter what once we hit the beach at 14?
She was in a very tough spot, having been a previous winner, I think. It just becomes so easy for everybody else to be like, just get rid of the winner. And then we're like, oh, then we're all on even playing ground. We can, I feel like that's a part of it. And she's really, really good. Like this isn't just, of course she won. She could have won again. Like, she is that good a player. Obviously, physically is a beast in challenges. Can like sort of control alliances and relationships. Like, she's got she's loud, right? And she doesn't hide it. So I understand why they targeted her, and it was sort of like a quote unquote easy target. So she's in a tough spot. I don't know if there was really anything she could do. The edit's going to say, oh, it's because the leak to Emily, and then it gets back to Rizo, and that's going to play a part in it. But that's, I think, more them coming up in the edit of like, this is why not, well, she's a previous winner and they're just going to like focus on her and get her out. That's my opinion on it, or read on it.
Yeah, I was predicting that this would have gone one of two ways. One is D is the easy target. D and Stephenie are kind of a pair, so split votes between them, which is what we see Coach come up with for his general plan. But also the other option was, well, if Rizo does feel strong enough about his relationship with D, and, D and Stephenie, they're just a pair. They're not a threat, like not a big deal. Jonathan hates D. They're never going to work together. Maybe we should shoot at the Honor and Integrity Alliance. Which kind of was the Coach shot, even though that was just due to him being annoying and actually didn't really have anything to do with strategy. But that was kind of where I thought that the cards were headed, one of those two directions. It's tough to say how much the D Emily Rizo leak situation played a role in her boot. But if I was Rizo, I mean, that's a pretty good reason to be willing to let her go, right? Like what, because it's going to take a lot of effort to go out and rally the numbers. How do we save D, right? It becomes a saving D mission where if you're like, I trusted you and you let that information leak, goodbye.
Yeah.
Plus the winner of it all and being the last winner and all that stuff on top of it.
Yeah, I think that's what it came down to, is how much was he willing to stick his neck out? And Cirie as well, to a certain extent, because Dee told me that she actually worked very closely with Cirie. Her best friend's claims were, left in the wind. They were not heard whatsoever by Dee when she actually played on Survivor 50. But how much they were willing to sort of expend their own social capital and make that stand, as much as Jonathan and Coach were declaring it's not a line in the sand, it's a wall in the sand. Sand is still sand at the end of the day. I think some of these people were like, yeah, things could crumble very easily. So like, let me lose this battle to possibly win the war. Maybe it was a little bit of like the edit tail wagging the dog here, in that I feel like if there was something going about like, okay, they were going to take advantage of the split vote to like do a plurality and get rid of Coach, I think we would have seen a lot more as to like who was specifically being brought on board. It was just more so of an Emily being like, have you thought about trying this? I don't know. Maybe Emily felt bad that she incidentally ended up sinking Dee's game in the process. But I think we talk about this all the time, especially in the new era, the past 10 seasons. The merge vote is the most anybody but me vote, honestly, that exists in Survivor outside of maybe the first vote of the season. Like, it is all about, there's a lot of new faces and alliances around me. I just need to get my bearings. And if that involves voting for the lowest common denominator, let me do so. And so I think for a lot of these people, even with the dreaded middle folks that Coach was disparaging, they're sort of like, listen, I know that there's a chance they might be coming for me at some point, but let's just play nice. Let's be hunky-dory at the moment, and we'll work on crossing that bridge when we get to it. So I think it was just going to be such a tall task. I know that I think that Dee was trying to whisper in so many people's ears to do the really fun thing of being like, no, Ozzy, you don't understand. I got Emily. I got Christian. I got Cirie. I got Rick. We could do this. And then go to Emily and be like, yeah, I definitely have Ozzy at this point, and just lie to everyone's faces that you have everybody else in the hope that those assumptions will be correct and she will have everybody else.
Yeah, I also like with this one, this is where I wished that the boomerang idols didn't exist and that they could be played on other people at this point of the game. That just opens up a whole bunch of other possibilities, but like, you know, Aubry's just going to burn it, and that's fine. That's her decision. I sort of get the understanding too, but it'd been cool if she could have done something with that and actually sort of like flipped it and blindsided somebody. But
maybe she could have, but she forgot.
Yes, that's right.
She forgot.
I forgot I had this thing. I actually just thought it was a trinket. Yeah.
I love your point, Skeets, that like these people are so self-knowing that they'll be like, yep, I definitely made this mistake. I'll rectify it. But I cannot believe that Aubry had the audacity to try this. I guess it was her first tribal council that she's gone to in like nearly a decade. So maybe she's a little out of practice. But when she's like, oopsie, you know, I was so caught up in all of the iconography around me. I was drawn in by the visuals that I totally forgot what I was supposed to do. I'll definitely do it next time, though. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Maybe it was because they had 3 tribal councils to get in that night, and like these usually take hours, but just like, we got 10 minutes, let's go here. And she's like, whoa.
Well, and the thing is like, okay, you forgot. You could tell that because basically everybody knows about her idol. But the people who gave you, I mean, she thinks it was Devins, right? Yeah. But like, tell Christian and Devins, hey, I figured since Genevieve was, we could keep it for us. We can do something together. Like, use it as some kind of tool, even if, of course, your justification is that you were being selfish and you were like, I can get away with not playing this so that I have it for me for a later stage. Yeah. But just tell even are you trying to work with people? Because Aubry's reaction in this game so far has been, oh, this person's trying to work with me. I'm gonna go dance with Coach instead. Like between Genevieve, between her interacting with Christian and Devins, I'm like, these people are trying to work with you. Like, give them something in return. Oh my God, I did not understand Aubry in this episode at all. I mean, eventually she played it, so sure, she rectified her mistake, I guess. Yeah. But the decision making just makes no sense to me.
Counterpoint to that, though, I found it really interesting that these two are obviously apoplectic about Aubry's claim of her reasoning, but they say, if we knew that Aubry wasn't going to play the idol, we would have voted her out. I mean, it's like, didn't you give the idol to Aubry for the express purpose of working with her? Was the allure of getting the idol back? I mean, these are, a couple of showmen, right? They hid the fake idol at Tribal Council that we keep getting mentioned.
Oh,
I feel
man, they keep telling us, don't forget about that. Yeah.
We got to see it pop out at some point. But it is interesting that if Aubry, for whatever reasons, like, no, I trust in you guys, let's use this idol for us. If she claimed that logic before the Genevieve vote, there's a non-zero chance these two guys would have been like, you know what? Let's flip on Aubry. Yeah. Sure. That way we can get the idol back to us.
That's exactly what I proposed on No Buffs the week prior. I was like, man, I could see these two if they realize, she's not going to play it. Why don't we just like try and target her and get it back in our hands? And like, they're going to think it's with Rick. It's actually with Christian, like that angle too. But yeah, she was like, I'm going to play it. They're like, okay. And then didn't, said she forgot, admitted it was a mistake. I liked when she was like, man, I gotta start actually playing here. She's been doing that all season long. She's like, are you there, Aubry? Let's go here. These are really good players. But yeah, she ends up just burning it. It's like, at that point, why don't you just sit on it again and just say, I forgot again, keep leaning into that. That would have been hilarious.
I mean, and it's so funny because they didn't get to see Rizzo's idol withholding, I suppose, in 49.
Right,
so it's just, it's really funny when Aubry's, everybody knows about the idol. This is now useless. Rizzo in the background, like, I mean, could have been a tool.
I love the idea you have, Skeets, of her just saying she has very specified idol amnesia. Which is, listen, I'm going to write it on my arm next time. So I don't forget. I'll set a reminder on the tree calendar that today is the day I have to play the idol. I'm so sorry I keep missing these standing appointments, but you know, it gets so busy. It was such a scramble going on. I had a lot of rice I needed to work on that day.
I was dancing with Coach all day. I couldn't sit down. I'm tired. Yeah, but she could have, like Memento style. Like she starts writing it on her arms.
Or let's not say I forgot to play it. What if she forgot to bring it? What if she claims she's like, oh, Jeff, let me do this. And she digs through her bag and she's like, oh, crap. Oh, I was going to play this.
I swear.
My stuff. I left it in my other pants. I'm so sorry, guys. But I'll wear these pants next time. I promise.
What if she's like, oh, yeah, she's like rifling through her bag. She's like, I could have sworn it was in here. And she's like emptying out her bag. Then goes, oh, I think it fell behind the rock there. And she thinks she grabs the fake one. Maybe we're setting up for some crazy weird switcheroo here.
That fake idol better. I mean, it's continuously being mentioned, so I am waiting for this thing to show back up. This better be a blowout. I can't wait. I'm really excited for it. I hope it's not just something dumb. I mean, not that Adam Klein trying to play the pedestal was dumb in Winners at War. That was amazing. No notes. But I just hope it's like, oh, we tricked Coach into trying to get this idol, and then he played it, and it's kind of a whomp whomp type moment because they just keep mentioning it and keep hyping it up. I'm expecting something.
So what's the perfect play then, at least to you? Like they convince people that it's a real idol.
So I think there's two different paths we could go down. There's the original reason why it was planted, which is if they're in trouble, they can say, I got a clue to an idol hidden at tribal council and I'm playing it. The other one could be, now this would take a lot more legwork on their part, because if I was approached by somebody, arguably my competition for $1 million, and they say, you won't believe it, there's an idol hidden at tribal council, you should find it and play it. I'm like, receipts, please? Am I just going off of hearsay, what you're telling me? But it would be pretty amazing if they're so PO'd at Aubry that they're like, you're not gonna believe it. We have another idol that you can find, and it's at tribal council. And she's like, all right, Jeff, this was the Scarlet Letter last time, but this time I'm like the Great Gatsby, living the high life, only to find out that she is as podunk as Jay Gatsby was prior to the war.
I think it's got to be in the delivery, right? I think you can't do that. But I think if they had stuck it where you could maybe see a little bit of the burlap kind of sticking out amongst the rock, be like, hey, Coach, have you noticed there's this like weird burlap thing sticking out of this rock? Next time we're at tribal, you should like look for it. And you kind of maybe like subtly build it that way. Maybe
lay the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, exactly. Where then it's not enough. And people just kind of are like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Let me investigate it. And then it becomes on that person, not necessarily being like that idol. Yeah, you go grab that.
Well, now here is where, unfortunately, the celebrity angle is going to sabotage this plan. Because if it's a special idol, where's the sponsor? Where is the person? And so even if you wrap it up in the note, if they say, oh, it's hey, Billie Eilish, like, no, this isn't it. You have to like hand scroll a note that's like, hey, it's me, Young Sheldon. You found Young Sheldon's tribal council idol. Bazinga. Now you get to flip the game on its head.
Hey, it's Elsbeth. Here is your idol.
Objection.
Yeah. I'm also like, I can't wait to, like, this has to pay off. I think we all agree with that. Otherwise, why are the editors doing this? Like, they're really telling us every episode. But like, I can't wait to see who takes credit for whatever inevitably happens. Because it is the two of them. Will Rick try and take more of a credit than Christian, or will he, or vice versa? Like, or is it just a joint collaboration here? I'm sort of interested to see that part, how that like plays out.
Yeah, it is a good question because they've been in pretty much lockstep. But the unfortunate thing with Christian's comparison all the way back from episode 1 is that like there weren't, merits given away in Star Trek to like, okay, who was the better person to execute on this away mission? This is, in fact, they lived in, a society that existed without that capitalistic aspect. Here, there has to be a winner. There has to be someone who has to take credit for it. And is it the person who is the Captain Kirk, who they're saying like, well, Rick was really out front. He was doing all these things and he got to the end. Or is it Christian being like, I was the one that came up with the ideas and Rick was the one who executed on them. It's tough to really distinguish from there. And it's also a really interesting point in that these two, obviously they were split apart at the swap, but they have been pretty simpatico since they came back together. Could this be a possible point in division for the two of them if they feel like inevitably their games are too similar, too intrinsically tied to one another to feel like they can go to the end together?
Who came up with the actual idea to put it at Tribal Council? Was it Rick?
Yes, Rick did. So Christian told Rick that he found the idol.
Yeah.
And Rick's like, I have a great idea.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I made a fake. Let's hide this.
Yeah.
And Christian was more than happy to go along with it. He was the fall guy, literally, to take away the attention from everybody so Rick could do this.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see, how it plays out. I think they must know, though, that they need to exist with each other, at least until you get closer to endgame. So I would imagine that if you're Christian or you're Devins, you're looking at each other. Basically, you can't sit against one another in the final three, but you do have a lot of gameplay left in order to get there. And as the undesirable middle people, or whatever Coach was calling them, you've got maybe a more difficult path to navigate to be sure that you make it there, especially if people are perceiving you as squirrely or flighty or unreliable in some capacity. And Christian also, it's not like it's been a super smooth path for him, right? His issues with Ozzy, which could then impact his relationship with Rizo and Cirie in their polycule. So I think that it's just, if you're sort of counting numbers and you've got Emily, the biggest liability on the planet, like over there spouting God knows what, how's she going to feel when there's a fake idol and she didn't know about it, right? Like, who knows what the ramifications of that will be. So I just think Christian, I love him to death. I think he's got a very difficult path to the end. Fake idol, yes or no in play.
Yep.
One last thing before we get into our usual B&B fare here. I want to talk about Cirie. Cirie's Riz, not the Wizard of Oz, but let's talk about the scene where Stephenie comes back from Exile. Where she's like, you're not going to believe it, gang. We had benchmarks in this endurance challenge. I had to last half an hour and then I got my vote back. And if I wanted to try a little bit extra, put a little bit of sprinkles on the top, if I lasted an hour, I would get an advantage. And gosh darn it, don't you remember my bum shoulder? I couldn't last longer than 30 minutes. I still lasted 30 minutes, though. And Cirie's look, even in the moment, and obviously, I think for many reasons, the show cannot say traitors. And so, but if you watch the two of them on that show, you knew this inevitable encounter was coming. That Stephenie would try her best to lie about something, and that Cirie would not only immediately clock it, but clock it to Stephenie that she clocked it.
Yeah. I mean, this is chef's kiss. This is why Cirie is one of the greats right there. That was the perfect example. She clocks it right away, doesn't say anything there, takes her to the water well or gets there at the water well. And then even how she does it, like jokingly, oh yeah, I believe you, with that smile and the charm and the riz, like you said, to the point where somebody's like, okay, yeah, okay, all right. Like, it's just, she's like incredible ability to read, obviously, people, and then just the way she delivers the information in such a disarming way. That, that's why she is one of the best, definitely the best to never win. It was incredible. It was amazing.
I would give Cirie my social security number if she asked. I and my mother's maiden name. I just know I would. And I think that to me is the more interesting part. So I'm so happy that you brought that up, because yes, her clocking Stephenie, I'm sure everybody was like, I don't know if Stephenie is telling the truth. But it's that approach at the water well that just immediately like Stephenie can't help but share exactly every single detail. It's, again, as you said, chef's kiss, brilliant, amazing.
Well, it's a little bit like trying to lie to your parents, right? And like trying to look them in the eye, where it's like, you already know that I'm lying, so like I can't help but confirm it, basically. And I love the way it was delivered as well, where somebody's like, no, listen, I believe you. We can keep telling this fairy tale. And Stephenie goes, listen, bitch, I got the fucking advantage, okay?
Yeah. Nora, it's funny you said the parents angle there. Nora compared it to, that's like a sibling knowing that you're lying. Like maybe you're trying to get something across or a lie to mom and dad or whatever. And your brother or sister going, you're like, yeah, right. Like just, okay, I'm not going to say anything out here in public, but
yeah.
as soon as we're talking alone, you can tell me you were smoking a pack of cigarettes because, so it was still great. It was so good. Now I do wonder how many of these other people, like you said, Liana, like how many of the other people are like, yeah, right. Like, what does she have? Or like, give me a break. Like Stephenie really should have done what she even said in confessional and been like, it was a puzzle or some sort of like count the triangles or something. Like, I'm just not good at that stuff. As soon as it was like physical, it was like, Stephenie, you're doing it. Like you are still a challenge beast here. Like, yeah. So
I think it's a combination of that. And I also do think it's a combination of the fact that she kept her vote, right? Like, I feel the assumption is that when you go on a journey, you either get an advantage or you lose your vote, and there is no in between. And this is a vote of 14 people, the easiest way or time to get away with pretending like you don't have a vote, right? Because Jeff's probably not going to read all the votes anyway, especially if there's the plurality, majority. Oh, so easy. Like, just say you lost your vote. I love the puzzle angle as well. Just say it's a puzzle. Say you lost your vote. Done, dusted. Probably the most believable lie that you could tell in that situation.
Yeah, and then you find your specific people, right? And you're like, or you don't need to. Who the hell needs to know that you have your vote unless you really feel like the numbers are so tight? Maybe this 14 interferes with Coach's big, grandiose plan to do the split because now he has to get one of those depraved middle individuals in on the plan. You have to get your hands dirty, I suppose. Just make sure you wash yourself afterwards when you interact with them. But I do think that this is, as you mentioned, Liana, the easiest way to kind of get away with it. I would say on the one hand, like, I'm surprised more people don't lie about losing their votes more, but I do feel like, especially in the small tribe aspect of the game, and we saw partially with Colby, like that kind of makes you a dead person walking, makes you a very easy target. But Stephenie was so surrounded, assumingly firmly, with so many people that it's not like everyone's going to say, ooh, Stephenie doesn't have a vote. Methinks we take a shot at her before she can write any of our names down.
Yeah. And she didn't choose to go on the journey too. That's a part of this. This was like, she wasn't like desperate to go and try and get something. It was like nobody wanted to go, probably wisely. And then, unfortunately her name came up on the shot in the dark die. So she should have that's a great point about all the votes not being like read. So it's like, oh, well, no, I didn't have a vote. Yeah.
The easiest time to ever get away with it. It just makes sense to do it there. Yeah. I also will say the fact that nobody wants to go on a journey maybe says something about the journey.
I feel like we are done with the meta of the journey because, you have people who the vast majority of the time, the strategy is not to play at all. We're going full war games here. That is that really a game mechanic you want to actively keep in your game? Something where the emergent strategy is to make a random draw happen to guarantee that you don't go. It's pretty faulty there. And we've seen a couple of times now how much those, screw people over. I wouldn't say that Colby was completely done in by not having his vote, but it's not great. No. Q, yes, there was a little bit of a wrinkle here in that he sold his vote, but still not great. It just feels like, it was an interesting moment to get Stephenie to highlight her past and remind us that she was one of the most tenacious and biggest fan favorites of the early era of Survivor. But I don't think we necessarily needed as much time dedicated to it because there was so much stuff going on at camp. And B, again, when it just ends up happening by random draw, there's not a lot of intrigue to someone getting picked to go on a journey in the first place.
No, that's where it's only fun when people are desperate to go because they're like, I am dead man walking here. I could really use an advantage or an idol. It's like, okay. And then there's people no, I don't want you to go. That's sort of fun, that conflict. But yeah, in this case, it was nobody wants to go. So it's okay. They should have right then and there say, we're not going. And the boat guy just turns around. He's like,
I like that. Mass revolts. No, they did this all the way back in Borneo when they actually protested initially. Do you remember the reward when the reward was watch a cut of the first episode of Survivor in a bar with Jeff? So that was all made up on the fly.
That's
Initially,
right.
it was just like a beer, like one Budweiser bottle, and everyone protested. They're like, "We're not going to do this shit unless you actually give us something worth playing for." And so they said, "Okay, well, we'll make this makeshift bar in the middle of our hotel and make this happen."
Right.
I feel like these people have enough pull that they could do that if they want to. Now, look, it's going to be tough to have 14 people stand strong with that. You might have a couple of scabs cross the picket lines and be like, "No, maybe we all go on the journey." But still, they had the power in their hands if they wanted to make something and truly say, like, "Listen, it might be in the hands of the fans, but it's in our hands right now, and our hands are refusing to grab that boat and go on any journey anytime soon."
Maybe they need to add like an incentive in the form of food or drink or something like that. Like then they'd be probably clamoring to go on said journey.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe.
listen, let me tickle Jeff's balls a little bit more here, Skeets. Is it not comparable to the argument about anti-tanking in the NBA nowadays,
Yes.
where, like, technically speaking, it is in the worst performing team's best interest to just
Yep.
not care about the end, and you can put in all the sort of bells and whistles that you want to try to counter what is the most beneficial idea for them at this time.
It's a great metaphor. I see it. It makes sense. And these players are just too smart. They're like going away from camp, dumb, going and to do whatever I do, coming back even lying or telling the truth. They're going to think the opposite, dumb.
Yep.
Like it's like it's like no win situation doing these half the time. And it's, for us, the viewers, it's like, it is a little boring. Like that one was like, it was, I guess, fun flashbacks and all that, but it went way too long. There was no real debate whether she was going to be able to do it either. I'm sorry. Like I know as the other shoulder and all that, she's going to do it.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so boring. I was like, I'm just watching someone do this.
Yeah.
It's just not interesting from a TV perspective.
What I'm confused about is, especially in this group where it's 14 people, why did they not have multiple people go on the journey? I know they do it in the pre-merge, right, to give cross-tribal interaction, but that's an interesting dilemma as well, right? Like if they face off against each other and the person who holds their arm up longer gets the advantage and the other one loses the vote, there's something interesting there where could someone like beg the other person, "I need my vote more than you do"? Could this form an unlikely alliance between the two? Can they come up with a story together? Do they immediately turn on one another? I think we need more of those elements, especially if we're going to bring journeys into the post-merge. Let's not make them an individual sojourn because, it very much literally alienates them, puts them on an island to be like, well, this person did this special thing that we don't know about, and so they're a target now.
Yeah. And just having 2 or 3 people doing it, like obviously we're going to get conversations between them, building alliances or not, whether they're going to keep secrets or not. Like at least we just get some interaction between players, obviously. So just her just standing there looking at a camera guy holding their hand above her head. So it's not fun.
Well, and like another just poorly planned thing was the fact that both this challenge and individual immunity was like holding something above your head. She was in so much pain. I felt I actually genuinely did feel so bad for Stephenie.
Like she must be so furious. Like, fuck my drag. Like you just had me hold my arm above my head for an hour. And luckily I used my non-dominant good shoulder, and now I have to hold both of them above my head.
Yeah, and like then like what Savannah and Colby played like Tetris, right? Like wobbly Tetris. Like what? It's not really that hard.
All right. Well, speaking of Tetris, let's see how the blocks fell in place when it comes to our preseason predictions on D. So, Liana, obviously, D in a very unique position. Only one of 3 winners to enter season 50, and arguably the one with the biggest reputation. So, how do you think that was going to affect her ultimate time in the game?
Yes. So I did have D pre-jury.
Oh, so close.
So close. I said that D enters the game as a clear threat because, duh, she's a recent strong winner, which immediately leads to her being an option for the first boot on Kahlo before the tribe pivots to Charlie instead. Speaking of what'd you say? What's a Taylor Swift song?
Reputation.
Yeah, speaking of reputation, there we go. Anyway, D uses that time well, forming a solid trio with Camilla and Tiffany, eventually pulling in Mike White to create a potential majority. However, as Kahlo continues to win, players like Jonathan and Coach grow increasingly uneasy, keeping a strong female winner in the game. This sets up a tribe divide: Chrissy, Coach, Jonathan versus D, Camilla, Tiffany, and Mike.
Oh!
Until Tiffany loses her vote on a journey at the worst possible time. Not wanting to go to rocks, Mike flips back, leaving Dee dead in the water. When Kahlo finally returned to Tribal right before merge, so close, the numbers are clear and Dee is taken out as the biggest threat remaining. Allies, Camilla and Tiffany. Enemy, Jonathan and Coach.
Look
That
this.
pretty
Pieces?
impressive.
Pretty
Pieces?
dang impressive. Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously just give her the award already, but I will try to slog through mine right now, which, listen, is not like too bad, but absolutely pales in comparison to the masterclass you just put on there in terms of predictions. So I also had D going pre-jury / D jury. D comes into Survivor 50 with a resume longer than her big toe. Despite this, she's able to stave away being a dead woman walking due to Kahlo's challenge streak. Wanting to mimic her winning strategy from last season, D tries to lock in a majority alliance early on. As the days wane, a clear Kahlo coalition coalesces with D, Charlie, Coach, Camilla, and Tiffany. Coach each dubs them a Knight of the Round Table, complete with a comparison to an Arthurian legend. Unfortunately, much like when Merlin was trapped in a tree, the knights are scattered when the swap occurs. I don't even know if that's accurate. That's like pulling from the recesses of my memory. Luckily, D has some armor in still maintaining an original Kahlo majority, plus getting the opportunity to reconnect with her season 45 compatriot Emily. When D finds her tribe's idols, she's officially put her foot on the neck of this game. During the post-swap phase, people online even begin the conversation as to whether she may be one of the greatest players of all time. Going into Tribal Council right before the merge, D feels truly padded on all sides to walk into the proverbial hall brawl that is the individual game. But she has no idea how much of a rebellion has been stewing underneath her feet, feeling she has way too much power. The non-Kahlo majority will be able to successfully swing Jonathan over, pitching him to boot a possible challenge threat. But surprisingly, the killing shot comes from Emily, as she becomes paranoid that she may get got by D the way she did only 5 seasons ago. So in the biggest move of the first half of the season, D is stunningly taken out by her closest allies and with an idol in her pocket. Her closest allies were the Round Table, and her enemies were Jonathan and Emily.
Okay.
I mean, Emily did kind of sabotage her game.
Unintentionally, I would say. I don't know if it was done purposely this time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Also, I did Google Merlin trapped in a tree, and yes, in Arthurian legend, Merlin is famously trapped inside a tree or sometimes a cave by the Lady of the Lake. So I don't know where you got. I mean, your brain works in mysterious ways.
The Lady of the Lake.
Hey, I love it.
Well, Skeets, our guest, typically has the job of being able to adjudicate and figure out who is more on the money here, but I think you've got a rather easy pick this week.
Yeah, I'm going with Liana on this one. That was pretty impressive. I was like, wait, when did you write this? When did you come up with this? I was confused for a second. I'm like, what's going on here? That was pretty good. If those are preseason predictions, man.
Let's go. I love it. Thank you. I'll take the point.
All right. Well, let's see if you keep putting up points here, as we'll be talking about some teams that certainly have been this NBA season. So, Skeets, given your background and your day-to-day, especially given, as you mentioned, the encroaching NBA playoffs, I thought it was the perfect time to do our own ball-tickling metaphor making here by making some comparisons between the cast of Survivor 50 and the NBA. So what I did was, over the past few days, I created a survey that lists out basically 12 NBA teams of varying qualities. Thanks to Skeets for providing all of that intel. Arguably 12 of the most interesting teams to talk about. And viewers were asked to basically say which Survivor 50 contestant reminds them the most of which team. So basically the way that we're going to do this is kind of like the initial showdowns that happen on Family Feud, where we're going to go team by team, and you're each going to pick a name of a Survivor 50 contestant. Could be someone who's been voted off, could be someone who's currently still on the season. And depending on the percentage points that answer was, you will get that amount of points. So if you get a name that was 33.7% of the vote, I'll be generous, I'll round up, you get 34 points for that particular answer. So we'll go back and forth here. But first, I have to ask, Skeets, I mean, are you someone to try to mix your two worlds here? Do you often make comparisons between some of the NBA legends that you sometimes work with and watch versus some of the contestants you watch on Survivor?
Not really. And I got to be honest, Mike, I was dreading this when you came up with it and you pitched it. I was like, God, all I do is
badge of
talk
honor.
about the NBA, man. All I do, I want to talk Survivor. I'm happy we had an hour just talking about the episode. I was like, no. So no, the answer is no. But I found this very difficult. Like extremely difficult. Some were like, okay, that person is that team, that person's that team. Others, like I had coach in like 5 different spots. I could not decide where I wanted to put coach.
I mean, it's an all too adequate name for sports comparisons, right? When your nickname is coach, you're bound to show up anywhere.
Yeah. So, okay, but I did not realize that I'm actually trying to, like you said, decide who the majority is picking for said. That changes this a little bit.
And so you can also offer your perspective as well, like if you have a personal comparison. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's a little bit like the infamous touchy subjects challenge that they no longer do, where it's not necessarily what you think, it's more so what you think the majority thinks.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Getting in the heads of Survivor fans. We know it's in the hands, but now we're getting in their heads. Well, Skeets, I'm going to stick on you here. Let's test this proposition here. So we are going to start with the Oklahoma City Thunder, our reigning NBA champs. Which Survivor contestant do you think the audience said reminded them the most of OKC?
I think they're not going to overthink this, and they're going to go with this idea that they're champions. So that leaves us with, obviously, 3 people that were in said game that were champions, and D being the most recent to leave. I think that's how people will approach it.
Okay.
So I will go with D. I will go with D. Yeah.
All right. And OKC is pretty good D as well. Liana, what about you?
Oh, see, that's so interesting. I had similar logic. And also, yes, my husband helped me with a sports thing. Okay. Although I am wearing my Timberwolves jacket. Okay. Shout out Timberwolves.
Oh, nice. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I know. It's very subtle.
There it is.
Anyway, okay, so I was same logic. I was actually debating between Rizo and Savannah, between basically like kind of Rizo, this like new hot player, obviously Savannah, most recent winner that we saw. I'm ultimately going to go with Rizo because I think like Savannah's early boot might play into why they might not pick Savannah. So I'm going to go with kind of Rizo, young hot shot, really excelling in this season.
All right. I can confirm that the number one answer for the Oklahoma City Thunder was D.
Okay.
25% of the vote.
Ooh.
1/4 of the fans voted for D here. Number 2, Savannah at 15.2%. She was leading for a portion of time, which also makes sense. She's the most recent winner. They were the most recent winners. And number 3, not far behind, is Rizo with 12.2%. But also slightly behind him is Cirie, which I thought was also very interesting.
I actually, and I will go with my selection because I'm not doing the whole like just, okay, they won, so it's got to be a winner. I'm trying to think a little more cerebral, right? So I went with Christian as the Thunder. And here's why.
Yeah.
OKC is cited as having one of the most like data and analytics department in the league, and him being a robotics professor, always crunching numbers, thinking that way analytically. Now, yes, he hasn't won. Maybe he will. Tough sledding, I think, but that's where I went. So I went Christian as the Thunder.
For what it's worth, Christian was number 6 with 7.3%, and above him was Kyle. So again, I think all 3 winners being in the top 5 makes a lot of sense to me. All right, let's move into our next team here. Liana, which Survivor contestant reminded the fans most of the San Antonio Spurs?
Yeah, okay, let me see. Okay, so that's interesting. So here is where see, now I'm like getting in my own head. Okay. D was the answer, the top answer that I had here. I think like, again, like a disciplined sort of dominant player. That was the first option that Puya and I were thinking for this.
Okay. You are going with D, hoping to capitalize on back-to-back D answers here. Skeets, where are you going?
I am going to go with a Rizo play here. I saw somebody respond to you, Mike, to your tweet about this with the Google form to fill this out. I think it was Darth Johnson was the name. And I loved it. And this is where I was thinking. Young guy with not too many expectations going into 50, but surprised everyone by being a prime contender. The Spurs are like a 60-win team, sort of out of nowhere. I mean, they've got Wembanyama. I guess Rizo is Wemby. He is the alien here. He's the Riz god. So I'll go Rizo. I like that thinking there from Mr. Johnson.
And so did a lot of the fans as well. Rizo, number one with a bullet, 36.2% of the fans went with Rizo. I saw a lot of comparisons to Wemby as well, so I think it also makes a lot of sense of like young, lanky kid who's somehow overextending himself even past what you might expect. Liana, some not so great news. D got 1.8%.
Let's go.
One vote.
That's 2 points.
So number two, much like how she usually is sitting alongside Rizo, was Cirie with 17.8% of the vote. I have seen some logic there of like the Spurs consistently good. Cirie has that very similar quality. And then with 8%, we have Jonathan and we have Colby. Colby, is it like he's a Texan? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the Texan connection.
All right, let's move into our next team here, and we'll travel out west. Skeets, which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the Los Angeles Lakers?
I'll go with someone you just said. I think it's going to be Colby. I think it's going to be this legend angle. Like the Lakers this year, Luka just went out with an injury. Austin Reeves just went out with an injury. That's what Colby did. Was maybe actually sitting okay. The Lakers had got some momentum going, but it's not looking good now for the Lakers. And it wasn't looking good for Colby when he was voted out there. So I'll go Colby as my pick and what the people will say.
All right, Liana?
I agree with that as well. Actually, I'm really Colby was easily my top choice for the Lakers. I'll stick with sort of the legend dynamic of it all. I will go Cirie here just because I think that she could potentially slot in. I do think, though, Colby is probably that top pick.
Technically, they both are the top pick.
Woo!
They are tied in exactly 19%. Colby and Cirie. This was a very divided vote. Obviously, it's certainly compared to the San Antonio Spurs, but it pretty much was divided up by the legends here. So the top three were Colby with 19%, Cirie with 19%, Ozzy with 18.4%. Maybe him winning this immunity challenge was like LeBron-esque in terms of him being able to still get that under him. 60%, Mike White.
LA?
Wait, what?
Yes.
Yeah, because of LA, maybe.
Hollywood?
White Lotus?
That's weird.
Yeah, but then Coach is then number 5 at 11%. So yeah, definitely that old school legend mindset.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a marquee franchise in the Lakers.
Well, let's stick in California here, shall we? For maybe less of a marquee, certainly by comparison. Liana, which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, I had two options here. I'm going to go with Christian Kubicki. I feel like
I'm glad you clarified.
Yes, I know, because, well, I mean, if I'm
we
Jeff,
do technically have a couple of Christians on this season.
It's
if
true.
You remember Coach holding his crucifix.
I feel like there's something about like Christian being like the smart sort of analytical player, and the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry being like the smart analytical team, you know, fan favorite ? But yeah, I'm going to go with Christian.
Okay, Skeets.
This is the one I struggled the most with in finding my own comparison. So I have no real idea putting myself in the voters. I think they're going to go with a winner here too because of the Warriors' success, but now they've aged out. I'll go Savannah, but I am really just guessing here. I don't have a good feeling about this one.
All right, let me see where Savannah is. Well, Savannah got a vote.
Okay, well, so I was way off.
At 0.6%. So you get one here. But Christian ends up getting significantly more, 9.2% for Kubicki, as Jeff likes to call him. But the top couple are up at 16%. D, the number one answer.
So I went between Savannah and D, and I went Savannah, I guess because I already said D. I didn't want to say it again. Yeah, okay.
And maybe that's another concept where I have like, she is the person who has won the earliest out of those three winners, aged out of it perhaps.
Yeah.
Second, 14.1% is Ozzy.
Ah, damn it.
Third, Colby, 11.7%, and then fourth with Christian at 9.2%.
Okay.
All right, Liana, you're making up some ground here. You are, I would say, significantly behind, but
shut up.
All right, well, I'll go to Skeets. I'll go to Skeets then for this next one. And again, we'll stay in California. Which Survivor 50 contestant reminds the fans the most of the Sacramento Kings? Who's lighting that beam?
Okay, I don't think people are going to overthink this. I think they're going to go with Joe here because of the Sacramento ties, being a Firehouse captain there in Sacramento, in addition to being married to Katie Christensen, who is a former WNBA player who actually does television analyst work for the Kings. This would not be my pick in picking a player, but I will right now stay with Joe as what the people will say.
All right, I definitely want to get your pick after we hear from Liana here. So Liana, who's your pick?
Okay, this was all Puya. Jenna Lewis was who he chose for this. The logic was like the almost team, specifically in the early 2000s. So, foundational to the league, but often associated with like what if moments. That was his logic behind it.
It's good logic.
What was your choice, Skeets, personally?
I had Coach here for a bit because I don't think Coach is ever going to win the game of Survivor, just because he's Coach. But I actually wanted to go with Emily with sort of this chaotic WTF energy that she's bringing to this season. And the Kings are like always a mess. Like, what are you doing? You should be losing. Now you're winning. Obviously, you should be trying to win. You lose. I cheer for them, but they're frustrating. So I went on sort of weird, different route there. But I'm going with Joe as my answer.
And you should, because Joe got 10.1% of the vote.
Not a lot.
But 14.5% of the vote went to Jenna Lewis-Dougherty.
Wow. I'm actually shocked by that.
Well, you might be until you remember that Jenna Lewis is also based in the Sacramento area.
I forgot.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Thank you, fans.
Yeah, so thanks to the geographically minded fans.
Yeah.
Yes, those were by far the top two. Not by far, because then shortly behind Joe, tied with 9.4%, Aubry and Q. Maybe Q is sort of like what you were talking about, Skeets, and sort of just like doing chaotic things, zigging when you think they would zag.
Yeah.
That's good.
Sense.
Yeah, that's really good.
Stephenie also got 8.8% of the vote. All right, we are finally leaving California here. Liana, which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the Detroit Pistons?
Okay, interesting. Yes. Okay, so we had two options for this. I'm not going to say both, but the top option that I'm going to go with is Stephenie LaGrossa.
Okay.
For kind of like scrappy blue collar story, just like pure grit energy.
All right, Skeets, where are you going for this one?
Man, that's good. That's good. Yeah, Pistons are like defensive minded, do the dirty work. And I'm like sort of struggling to think who fits that. Stephenie makes sense. Who are people going to say? I do not have a good read on this one. I'm going to go like a big guy, I guess. I'm going to go Jonathan.
Okay.
That was my second name.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good.
Well, Liana, it should have been your first because Jonathan was the number one answer.
Woo! I'll take that win.
Only 10.4%.
Wow.
So this was a very scattered vote. Stephenie did pretty well, got 3.1% of the vote. But Jonathan definitely in first. I'm trying to look right now. Joe second with 7.4%. I think that makes sense given the sort of blue collar background.
Yeah.
Q was in third with 6.7%, and then Emily had 6.1%.
Okay.
All right, Skeets, which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the Boston Celtics?
Oh, I'm so happy I get to answer first here. I am not overthinking this. I am going with Kyle. Who, is a recent champion and looked like he was maybe set up quite well to try and get another one under his belt, but he got injured, just like Jason Tatum of the Celtics. It was even the same injury, so I'm going Kyle.
Wow. Well, Kyle is just such a great ball fan that he ended up injuring himself just like Jason Tatum did. And who would have thought he's a Celtics fan?
Somebody wrote into No Buffs the concept, and I'm like going to forget the order of everything, but this idea, like before Kyle left, he saw an injury, the torn Achilles. He went out, tore his own Achilles, and then came back, and Halliburton was tearing his Achilles. Like it was like this weird, like
poor Kyle.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, oh my god, and like I did go through it. It's like it all mapped out in terms of like when they'd be shooting and stuff like that.
nuts.
I forget who did it.
I
so
love that
apologies.
Kyle's like, I need to escape my torn Achilles. Let me just turn on some NBA.
Yeah, exactly. And then like game 7, it's like, oh, there goes Halliburton's torn Achilles. So yeah, but I will go Kyle with the Celtics.
All right, Liana,
Yeah.
was this answer your Achilles heel? Who did you go with?
I was also thinking in the winner's circle. I went with D here.
Okay.
D.
Oh no. Well,
1.2%
Scrolling.
of the vote here. Kyle, on the other hand, take that 1 and add another 1 on top of it. 11%. Or should I say 10? 11%. Not the number one choice, though. I was tracking this in real time. He was the number answer for a while because I saw a lot of comparisons, as you mentioned, with the recent championship, with the Jason Tatum comparison. Number 1, though, Cirie Fields.
Oh.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit of like reputation there, right? Like that old schooler vibe. Yes, has had some recent success, but like has had a good amount of it through the years. And to that point, Ozzy, second place, 12.3%.
Yeah.
Kyle had 11%. Stephenie also had 11%. And then Colby, 9.8%.
Yeah, it's like the Lakers. When people think the NBA, they think Celtics and Lakers. And when you think Survivor, you think maybe Colby, you think Cirie, you think Ozzy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's stay on the East Coast here. Liana, which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the New York Knicks?
Okay. Yeah, so here I had Coach.
Okay.
So I had Coach sort of like this dramatic, theatrical, like larger than life energy. Again, also, I think a team, I mean, maybe not one of the top teams when people are thinking, like just listing off NBA teams, not saying like the best, but I do think that the Knicks are up there in the conversation. It feels like Coach felt appropriate here.
All right, Skeets, what do you think?
I had Coach on my short list, but I'm really going with my own personal opinion here because I think the Knicks are like Cirie. Because the NBA is better when the Knicks are good or relevant, and Survivor is better when Cirie is on it. And that was my reasoning. Also, the Knicks are good this year. Like, could maybe win it all. Could Cirie? I don't think she's going to be high on this list, but I'm still going with it. I don't care. Cirie with the Knicks.
I have to co-sign that theatricality thing. I actually went to a Knicks game a couple of days ago for the first time in like decades.
Wow.
And it was so gloriously over the top. It was completely coincidental. I now hold the honor of being the first person to ever eat an Impossible Burger in Madison Square Garden. So put that on my tombstone at this point.
What do you mean?
What are you talking about?
I went to Madison Square Garden because they opened an Impossible Burger and I got the invite and I got handed a burger and they said, just so you know, this is the first Impossible Burger that's been ever served at Madison Square Garden. And it was like a triple layer burger. And they have a picture of me somewhere out there taking a big old honking bite of this thing.
No McDonald's CEO energy here.
They literally said that to me, Liana. They said, don't do a McDonald's CEO.
Wow. Oh, this is
my right of Knicks
incredible.
connection.
You're a celebrity.
Oh, God. Yeah, in infamy more so. But all that being said, the number one answer was Coach. Speaking to that theatricality, 15.8%. Cirie, a respectable 8.5% as well. But the number 2 answer was Christian, which is interesting.
Oh. Okay.
Rizo got 9.7%. I think that's a little bit of like a hometown connection.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a Knicks fan, I think, isn't he?
Is he? Yeah, because he told me that his favorite player was Luka. Like I asked him, like, what celebrity would you want to bring out to the island? He said, like, Luka is his number 1 player. But I guess he would be a Knicks fan. Makes sense. He's like New York born and bred.
I think he is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move northwards. Skeets, which Survivor 50 contestant reminds you the most of the Toronto Raptors who lost to the Knicks when I attended the game in which I ate an Impossible Burger?
Yes, the infamous Impossible Burger game. Who could forget? Well, I'm not going to overthink it. It's got to be one of the Canadians on this season. So, I just flip a coin, flip a Canadian toonie. I'll go Genevieve. I think Genevieve feels more like a Raptor than Camilla.
Yeah.
But I love both my Canadian queens, but I'll go Genevieve.
Yeah, I mean, Genevieve for me is the answer, but I will say Camilla, the other Canadian icon.
And it is the answer by a resounding 39.8%. But it's so weird because Camilla, who comes in at 19.9%, is the one from Ontario, is the one from Toronto. Genevieve's all the way in Winnipeg, so it's so odd. But I guess there is only one Canadian basketball team, so you have to kind of just pick your poison.
Yeah, and Genevieve, like, just more of a personality, bigger personality in her playing a Survivor than Camilla, who's great, obviously, but I think that's probably a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like Genevieve really making waves, right? Whereas Camilla was a little bit more subtle and under the radar.
All right. Well, Liana, let's see if this next answer will sting as much as you did getting left out of Genevieve here. Speaking of sting, which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the Charlotte Hornets?
Yeah, okay. So, I went with Charlie.
Charlie, okay.
I went with Charlie here. I think the, like, just missing the championships, kind of having like a friendly vibe, but like deceptively sharp. Again, with the Hornets, there's a pun there. So yeah, I went with Charlie.
All right, Skeets, what about you?
Struggled with this one, and I have no idea who people are going to pick for the Hornets. Like, the Hornets are like this sort of up and coming team. They've been bad for a very long time, but this year they're probably going to be in the play. Well, they're going to be in the play-in or maybe the playoffs even, and people are like cheering for them and rooting for them because they're young and exciting. And for that reasoning, I'm going to go Stephenie, who I like really, really like as a player, and I have high hopes that she's going to go quite far here still. I don't think people are going to vote for her, but I'll go Stephenie just to make things a little interesting.
Well, you were right on that. You certainly made it interesting in, you know, maybe not necessarily hitting the top of the board here. Stephenie, 6.7%, but certainly a little bit more compared to Charlie, who got 3.1%.
Whoa.
But Skeets, it is the logic that you mentioned that gave Rizzo the top answer on the board here, 23.3%. He's got that conk-noodle energy.
Interesting.
Emily, second place, 18.4%. That's interesting to me. I don't necessarily see it necessarily. Emily also, maybe she lives in like the, you know, DMV area. Maybe they felt like that's North Carolina adjacent.
Close enough.
Yeah, or South Carolina, I guess, is Charlotte. But yeah, I also will say, by the way, it's been I've only become a very belated fan of the NBA as of late, Skeets, but like, what happened to the badass Hornets logo from the 90s? That was all over all the memorabilia. Why did they go all corporate on it?
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, they are starting to like bring a lot of those back for like city edition jerseys and stuff. Like, you're talking the teal that everybody was rocking.
The teal and like the actual anthropomorphized bee mascot that was on there.
Oh, yeah. They used to have a guy that like would go and jump off the trampoline and then like do the bug splat on the backboard, which was always pretty funny. But I think that character's gone. Whatever, that was like a secondary mascot. He was like in a dunk contest.
See, listen, if Coach is going back and channeling his shenanigans, the Charlotte Hornets need to do that as well. Take a page out of his book.
It's actually so funny that you mentioned. This is such a weird situation. I was in my mom taught art in France over the summer when I was a kid. And so I would get to go with her because anyway, I remember I needed a notebook and we went to a store in France and the notebook I picked out was the Hornets. It was like had the logo on the front and it was my favorite notebook as a child. So little Liana also 100% agrees with you that needs to come back.
Yeah, the 90s teal Hornets. It was a look.
Yep.
All right. Well, while our marketing ideas might be left on the launch pad, let's see if we can blast off with this next team. Skeets, which Survivor 50 contestant reminds the fans the most of the Houston Rockets?
Houston Rockets. Okay, I'm going to go with a big guy. It's like, are people NBA fans filling this out or not? I'm fascinated by that crossover between
There was
the
a
two worlds.
surprising amount, I would say, of NBA fans who are at least providing the rationale, the ones who spoke up the most.
Okay, well, that's great. I'm going to go with Jonathan here then. The Rockets play a bully ball. They offensive rebound. I do think like the Rockets or like Jonathan, like the Rockets is like, I think he's improved here in this run, and I think the edit's been pretty kind to him. I think he's going to ultimately come up a little short. Rockets struggle in fourth quarters. I'll go Jonathan Young here.
All right, Liana, it's the fourth quarter for you.
Yeah,
how are you going to come up here?
I think that's a great answer. I'm going to go with Colby. I'm also sort of similar logic, but I'm also hoping that the Texas connection can help me out a little bit here.
Good, smart.
Well, for what it's worth, you two did get the top two answers on the board here, but the number one was Jonathan with 14.3%. And number two, Colby, 10.6%. Number three is Emily with 9 points. I don't know why people keep seeing Emily in all these teams.
That's weird.
I don't know if maybe Emily's fans are actually the biggest NBA devotees that exist out there in the Survivor fan base. All right. Last but certainly not least, listen, Liana, there is no way to catch up here, but maybe you could cover the spread. Which Survivor 50 contestant reminded the fans the most of the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. What did I have written down? Yeah. Okay. So we're again, two names I was kind of going back and forth between. I think I'm gonna go with Aubry here as my answer. I think again, like the smart basketball angle has to be considered. While Aubry might not be playing that smart this season, from what we've seen, I do think that that's sort of her legacy and what people think of when they think of Aubry.
All right, Skeets, your final answer.
I thought she was going to say my pick, Aubry. I'm going to go Ozzy for my pick here. I don't feel confident in people picking them, but my reasoning I think is sound. The Hawks this year, I'm in Atlanta, so I go to a lot of Hawks games. They switched it up this year. They traded Trae Young. They were always like a good team, but they were sort of average. And then they decided to move off of Trae Young. They get back some vets. They switch it up. They start playing defense. So the idea of like Ozzy has like sort of done this here so far through Survivor 50. He's like not just played the Ozzy game. He's like more than anything. He's like, hey, Cirie, tell me what to do. And that might be a sound strategy, or it has been so far. So the idea of like a mid-season sort of switch up or like a changing and realizing that you got to play defense to win NBA games, I'll go Ozzy for the Hawks.
Well, listen, you did play some good defense here, Skeets, and that you still kept a resounding lead here. But actually, Ozzy got 7.4% of the vote, and Aubry got 9.3%.
Ooh, there you go.
So Aubry ends up getting more here. But the number one, again, when in doubt, just go to the region. Rick Devens with 14.2% of the vote.
I could not think of a team for Rick Devens when I was going through this. It just like nothing was working. I was like, no. But
is there a team that got eliminated from playoff contention, but then somehow made their way back into the competition?
Right. Maybe that's the struggle. No, that's rare.
But then also got beat by another team that came back even more into the playoff contention.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. I mean, the Clippers started this season like 6-21 and then have turned it around and are in the play-in, but yeah. Maybe
and then in number two was Q, actually, slightly ahead of Aubry as well. So, Skeets, congratulations. You were the winner of this. But I want to thank you for the patience it took to go through this entire experience, to mix work and play a little bit. A lot of people actually had a lot of fun with this when I sent out the survey. So thank you for satiating, the Venn diagram of sports fans and Survivor fans' whims everywhere.
I'm very happy that there were people coming up with sound reasoning. Liana, I thought you did well. I got some help, of course, but that's okay. That went way better than I thought when you first pitched it.
All right. Well, keep on the roll here with me, Skeets. As we do at the end of every week here on the B&B, we shine a spotlight on our guest to highlight a charity or cause that is important to them that they want the listeners of this podcast to check out. So for lack of a better term, the ball is in your court. Who do you want to spotlight this week?
I'm going to keep it local and go with the Atlanta Angels, which is a charity here, I guess, based in Alpharetta, which isn't very far from Atlanta. They mentor children to like make this lasting impact in their lives in terms of like foster care and helping people make that a reality and the support they need to do that. So I've been involved with them for a couple of years, by extension through friends. So the Atlanta Angels is who I'll go with. Which would be a great alliance name if
yes.
The
could
right
have been
people.
Savannah and Rick's alliance.
Yeah.
Could have been. Yeah. Well, you were an absolute angel here, Skeets. I was so happy to have you on. I'm such a big fan of all the stuff that you do from both a no buffs and no dunks perspective. And so I was so happy to finally have you on to get the chance to chat Survivor, to play some games, to talk some malarkey, and offer up what might be happening next with all of this. Now, as you mentioned, you podcast a ton, not only about basketball, but about Survivor. So how can people check out all the incredible work that you're doing?
Yeah, easiest thing to do is obviously search No Dunks for our NBA podcast. And we go live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube and flip it into a podcast. So if you want to get that on Apple, Spotify, wherever you download and listen to podcasts, just search for No Dunks. If you're an NBA fan, I hope you know about us because we've been doing this a very, very long time. But no buffs for all the Survivor fans out there. We do our recap podcasts like a lot of people, but we have a lot of fun doing it. I do it with my wife, Nora, JD, and then Trey, the two guys I also do the show with. And No Buffs, just search for that. We go live on Thursdays at around 1 p.m. Eastern. So we give it a little time to marinate, and then we go live and just have a blast. And we have some fun on Instagram too. No Buffs Pod, P-O-D at the end there. My wife Nora is the meme queen, so we crank out the memes, and we got some shorts and stuff like that, which is always fun. Like when, like, I think Coach just liked one of our recent shorts, so it's and like commented on it, so it's always a big deal here. Yeah,
you were dancing as much.
Oh
as
yeah,
Aubry
Opa! I yelled out
Opa.
Opa when Noah said Coach liked it. So yeah, no buffs and no dunks. That's my world here, at least for the next couple weeks for the Survivor 50.
Fantastic. Well, you can check out all the stuff Liana and I are doing, of course, with the pal, as Liana sits down with the aforementioned NBA fan in Puya to talk through all the musings of the week. I got the chance to talk with Dee for Parade. I'm also talking with Puya as well as a couple people about this wild wrap-up to a wild season of Australian Survivor. If you've been checking out Australian Survivor, we're coming to a close very, very soon, and then we'll be focused predominantly on what's going on with 50. And we need to, because it seems like next week it's going to be a doozy. Seems like we've got something with double the consequences. Do not know what that means, but we do have to shed a good amount of people. We did the whole blood moon, but we still, the clock is ticking.
What's the best working theory here? Is it going to be like people are tied together and like one's voted out, the other goes too? Like, whoa.
That is my leading theory. Because there is precedence for this. Survivor South Africa, they have done this. It's a twist called Tied Destinies, where people were paired up. If one person won immunity, they both won immunity. If one person had an idol on them, they both had an idol used on them. And if one person got voted out, the other person got voted out as well. So it could be that. It could be as simple as just, hey, you voted somebody out, and now we immediately vote again. Yeah. That's probably the cleaner one. But given how much they want to zhuzh things up in season 50, it would not surprise me the least. And if that is the case, we're certainly going to have a lot to discuss next week, shall we? Yep.
People, depending on who obviously would be tied with said person that got voted out, we could have a revolt on our hands here for the Survivor fans.
All right. Well, hopefully this podcast was not revolting to you all out there. Such a fun time. Of course, send us any game ideas you might have. RHAPBNB@gmail.com or hashtag RHAPBNB on social media. Special thanks to the entire team behind the scenes at RHAP for packaging this podcast for your eyes and ears, and Wolf from America for his incredible theme song. Liana and I will be back next week trying to figure out whatever this twist might mean and the subsequent fallout. Until then, everybody, we'll check you out at your next stay.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.